SBC Media.
Welcome to iGaming Daily, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe. Supported by SBC Summit Barcelona, the industry-leading conference bringing you the future of sports betting and iGaming.
SBC Summit Barcelona is where you can experience the entire global industry coverage under one roof. Join 10,000 industry professionals for 3 days of game-changing conversation and education. Get your tickets now at sbcevents.com.
Flutter Entertainment and the Fox Corporation are set to commence on a phased closure of the pair's joint sports betting business almost 4 years after the entity first came to the market. This latest development on FoxBet comes a mere 4 years after the CEO called the company a game changer once launched. So why has the closure of FoxBet happened? This will be the topic of discussion on today's podcast, as well as looking into BetMGM's latest financial updates. And joining me to discuss all of these is Craig Davies and Charlie Horner. How are we both doing today?
I'm all right. I'm ill. I feel pretty awful. I'm actually not all right.
You started all right.
I've just ruined one recording for a colleague downstairs by walking in when the recording's already going on. So, this might be 2 from 2 for the afternoon.
Yeah, I'd like to say you haven't ruined this recording, but it's not started well.
I try.
Perfect. And Charlie, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. I think I'm doing a lot better than Craig.
No doubt about it, to be honest.
You sound a lot more chipper, mate.
I feel like this is the third or fourth podcast me and Craig have done where you've set a negative tone. It's just kind of...
I think you set the negative tone by talking about a brand closing.
Yeah, but you're supposed to elevate it and hype us up a little bit. Not come out.
I'm no hype man. I'm no hype man. I'm no Basil, if everyone knows Basil.
There we go. Craig Davies is not the hype man. The listeners now know that. Perfect. Like I said, we're going to be talking about a Flutter and Fox, the closure of FoxBet. So let's dive into that straight away. And Craig, we're going to come back to you and hopefully you can be a bit more chipper. Can you just provide us a quick overview of kind of this latest news regarding Flutter and Fox?
Yeah, chipper.
Yeah,
chipper. Yay, FoxBet's closed. It was a disaster. Woo! FoxBet's closed, you said at the top of the show, 4 years after first coming to market. There was a hell of a lot of top expectation. But over the years, you've just kind of, especially when you look at it from the Flutter perspective, it's just been increasingly dwarfed by FanDuel. Especially if you delve into some of the financial updates as well. FanDuel's just absolutely dominating that side of the business for Flutter. I mean, if you was a bit of a skeptic on the matter, you'd kind of ask the question, how much would Flutter want to push FoxBet if they've already got arguably the dominant brand in the market? I mean, I won't ask that question to any of you, but it's an interesting line nonetheless. And while it's consistently loss-making, I believe I'm right in saying, although I'm sure Charlie will correct me if I'm wrong, and Flutter are very confident of potentially being the first operator in the market to hit full-year profits. We've seen executives at Flutter kind of hint at this move coming earlier in the year. I suppose when you look at it, all things considered from the comments earlier in the year, it's not the biggest surprise. But like I say, when they first hit the market, and I think it was the first US sports media organisation that was serving as the face of a real money sports book, there was, from that perspective, the expectation they had, it is a bit of a surprise that it's gone a bit sour.
Mm-hmm. And, the closure's set to kind of kicking our end. I think it's the end of August. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But this probably isn't the last we've heard or seen of kind of the FoxBet brand. Charlie, do you want to just expand a bit on that, on why?
So, I mean, the statement confirming this news wasn't particularly long, but it did hint that FoxBet will continue in some kind of form. So I think it's worth going back to what FoxBet was supposed to be, why it was set up in the first place. And I believe it was the Stars Group, as it was then back in 2019, trying to reimagine and reinvent the Sky Bet model in the US by taking the brand of a well-known media outlet and taking that to real money sports wagering. And the reason I allude to that is because Fox have said that they retain the future use of all the Fox and FoxBet brands, including FoxBet Super 6. Now, UK listeners will know the Super 6 brand from Sky Bet. And Fox has said that it will look at launching a FoxBet or a Fox Super 6 game later on in the year. So, yeah, Fox aren't quite leaving the gaming arena just yet.
Perfect. Then, Charlie, I'm going to stick with you on this one, and then Craig, you can add on as well when you get a bit more chipper. FoxBet, it was launched in 2019, and at the time, its CEO, Robin Chabra, I believe that's how you pronounce it, stated that, and again, I said it in my intro, this would be a game changer. Simply put, what went wrong?
Yeah, I think Craig hit the nail on the head really by saying that why would Flutter invest so much money into FoxBet when they've already got FanDuel, which, by all intents and purposes is the market leader in the US. Flutter says that it's got around 50% market share in online sports betting, 23% in online casino. Why would you fund or want to keep going with a loss-making venture that's only in 4 states got access to 6 million users when FanDuel they say is going to make a full year profit this year. So I think, that's the primary reason. And then just purely on a speculative basis, Fox is a controversial brand, right? We've seen the legal issues that Fox News has been in over the last couple of years. That Fox News brand isn't the strongest in terms of mainstream brand recognition. So I think there could be a couple of things at play, but I would primarily say that it's down to FanDuel's success.
It's why fight the battle on 2 fronts. You see the increasing competition, and it's not the first brand that this has happened to, and you've seen brands pull out of markets or apply for licenses and have to drop out during the process, etc. And there's such increased competition. FanDuel are not going to fight that on 2 fronts. Flutter are not going to fight that on 2 fronts. They've got the market leader there. That's what you put your priority towards. But you referenced the quote earlier. There's another one I've just got in front of me here. Rafi Ashkenazi, speaking of names, apologies if that was incorrect, was the then CEO of Stars. And he actually said, amongst numerous quotes, it's one of the most exciting long-term growth opportunities for our company. It was hailed as at the time. Obviously, that was before Flutter came in. Again, another side of this coin. I don't know how many sides this coin has, but another side of the coin is what would have happened had Flutter not come in and bought Stars later in that year. Would the picture be different? We'll never know. They did. They have FanDuel, so that's the priority.
I'm going to jump on that because my next question actually was kind of related to its US performance because it surged 112% Flutters. So why would you have this phase closure? But you've answered it. So let's actually jump on that hypothetical. What could the potential have been for FoxBet if Flutter didn't come in to buy Star Group?
It's difficult to say, isn't it?
It's not hypothetical. So
you don't know what the makeup of Stars would have been. On the surface, you'd say it would have been better served with a much, much bigger company with much bigger funding behind it in Flutter. It's all the bigger brands coming to market dominating. So I wouldn't necessarily say it'd be kind of in a completely different position.
Charlie, you want to take a stab at that hypothetical?
That's a really difficult thing to answer, but I think the link between Flutter and Fox and that relationship sort of going a little bit sour in the last couple of years. Recently, there was some legal issues that have been resolved that have probably soured the relationship there, which makes it difficult to keep this venture going. That relates to an 18.6% stock option that Fox holds in FanDuel, and whether they have to pay I'd say $20 billion valuation or an $11 billion valuation. Turns out that they would have to pay on the $20 billion valuation. But I think that whole legal process combined with FanDuel's success has probably led to this. Sorry, I completely realised that I didn't answer the question, but that's because I've just got no idea how to answer it.
It's absolutely fine. We can round this up now and move on to BetMGM, but we can just say that the venture with Flutter and Fox have received an F grade in the US, so it's failed. On to BetMGM, because they've had a bit more of a brighter week or so with the latest financial results. Because we got quite a few last week, Q2 updates, so we've not been able to cover them all on the podcast. But BetMGM is one that I really did want to cover. And Craig, from your point of view, can you just say what the headline figures were?
Headline figures. So it was 944 million of net revenue, I believe. But I suppose the key line out of it was that they're on the upper end of previous guidance ranges, which would read 2 billion for the full year. And I suppose the main line out of it from the financial side for me, on track to be EBITDA positive for the second half of the year, and actually were during the second quarter. You see a lot of the brands stressing profitability for the second half of the year. Obviously, we've just touched on it with Flutter hoping to be the first across an entire 12-month period. BetMGM have stressed the second half of this year for a while, so they seem to be well on track for that.
Mm-hmm. And Charlie, you're senior writer for SBC Americas. What's the US perspective from you? What's their viewpoint on the figures?
Well, I think they made some money. They're in a profitable. They had a profitable quarter in Q2, which is good. That's what we want to see, because all these companies have put so much money into it and they haven't made a cent yet. So to actually see a profitable quarter is somewhat positive. They say they'll make some money in the second half of the year. We'll see how that plays out, but I think both joint venture partners would be pretty pleased with the performance.
Mm-hmm. And I was reading the report on SBC Americas, but Craig, I'm going to point this towards you. Their online casino market share has dropped from 30% to 27% when compared to Q1 earlier this year. Now, BetMGM, they state they pride themselves on being the market leader in this space, and though the drop is relatively small, do you see any cause for concern for this 3% drop? And is it a cause for concern due to more operators and states opening up in the US, or is it something else, or is it just something not to look into that much?
I mean, you'd probably look at increased competition, right? I think we all know that the uptake of iGaming on a state-by-state basis is hugely lagging behind that of sports betting for reasons I'm sure we're all aware of and don't need to get into. On a quarter-by-quarter basis, I can't off the top of my head recall maybe each quarter from last year, or at least back end of the year. So looking at it purely on a Q1 to Q2 basis, 30 to 27, I'd probably be hesitant to read too much into it. If it drops another 3%, if we was here in 3 months talking about it and it's dropped another 3%, and then you're looking at a 6% drop at the beginning of the year, you start to look at, well, what are them leadership positions looking like in the States? And maybe something is more dramatically going wrong. But just from quarter to quarter, I think you've got to kind of just stop a little bit and not read too much into it. I'm sure some people are somewhere.
Perfect. Charlie, do you want to add anything onto that before I move on?
Do you want to read too much into it, Charlie?
Well, I just think that online casino, like you say, James, they pride themselves on their online casino platform. I mean, they're lagging behind in terms of market share on FanDuel and DraftKings in online sports betting. So to hold on to market leadership in online casino, you feel is vital for their long-term strategy, really. And but I'm sure you could probably dress the numbers up in 3 different ways and come out with 3 different market leaders. So probably not too much to read into, but yeah, let's look at the long-term trends.
Cool. And just to kind of round up the podcast a little bit, I asked at the start, what were the key headline figures for both of you from BetMGM? Now I'm going to ask, what are the key takeaways from both of you and your perspectives from your sites? Charlie, we'll go from you.
Yeah, I think one of the overarching themes this year is, can we make this business profitable? Can we start to make some money out of it? And to see that some operators are on that cusp, I think is really important. Investors will be looking and scrutinising performance, especially from the three big operators. So I think that narrative of the path to profitability and can we reach it, that's probably the key takeaway from me.
I'd have to echo it. I mentioned it straight at the top when we start talking about BetMGM. I mean, and you look into expecting to be profitable this year. You look at what they've just had. These launches in Kentucky, North Carolina, investments not planned there. They've also said that there's no additional equity investment expected from either MGM or Entain. So it does look very positive. So I'd echo Charlie on that. Although in Q3 and Q4, that sharing casino, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
That's all we've got time. Well, I say it's all we've got time for. There's one thing I want to ask you, Craig, in a second. But for the listeners don't be too concerned. The listeners out there, for anything that we've talked about on the podcast today, I'll leave a link in the description below on the Flutter and Fox story and the BetMGM figures from both SBC Americas and Casino Beats. Now, Craig, because we've got a little bit more time, there's a feature on Casino Beats today, a roundtable. Do you want to just give a quick overview of that, and we can put it in the link below for the listeners to check out? So
we're talking about HR and working practices. It's a complete shift from what we spoke about. It's a really good feature. 6 really good speakers on it. Delve into a range of topics across both yesterday and today. It speaks about obviously coming back to the offices after COVID. How's the difficulty there? We addressed 4-day work weeks. Is there any additional kind of initiatives that can come in the future? And you've got these ideas of hybrid working. What are the challenges there? And it addresses all these kind of key touch points. There's some really good quotes in there, actually. It's well worth a read. The 4-day work week intrigues me a lot.
I am also intrigued by it. And it's a 2-parter, isn't it? So
it's a 2-parter. The 4-day work week's in tomorrow. And I just speak about it a lot, but how it'd actually look in practice, you could do a whole week of podcasts on.
I feel like you should have made it a 4-parter for the 4-day week.
Cool.
I'll leave it in the description below for the listeners to check out. Do check it out because it is a good roundtable. Apart from that, Charlie, Craig, thank you for joining us today. And to the listeners out there, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of iGaming Daily, brought to you in conjunction with SBC Summit Barcelona, being held at the Fira Barcelona Montjuic on the 19th to the 21st of September. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.